Hi, and welcome to Nursery Rhymes in Modern Times, where we investigate traditional and contemporary nursery rhymes and how they fit into a modern context. Today, we are going to be talking about how dominant culture tends to influence what is shared in schools, in storytime settings in the library, and therefore in home communities as well. So, if you've grown up in the United States, chances are that you've attended school or a library storytime setting, and you have heard probably a lot of the same songs, most of which are likely in English, most of which came from an Anglo-centric background in England or elsewhere. And a lot of those have a history that goes along with those locations in the world. Now, as the world is becoming a little bit more globalized and you have more folks coming from around the world to live in different parts of society, you are going to find that sometimes those Anglo-centric backgrounds are not necessarily going to fit in with the audience that is sitting in front of you. So if you're a teacher or a librarian, you may find that sometimes you're going to have a majority of folks who do not come from an Anglo-centric background. So what does that mean in the context of your story time? So this is a chance for us to really start thinking about what is coming in from a historical background and what you as a provider may already be familiar with, and then what your contingency might be familiar with. So as you are thinking about this, try thinking about the places that the people who are in your audience have come from. What language do they speak? What songs are familiar from their background? So as we are building our story times, as we're building our classroom communities, it's important to think about not only who's there already, but who might be coming, who might be joining the global community and need to have some more background than just the background that is consistent with a dominant culture in your particular area. So this is the chance where educators of all types, and that includes parents, because parents are a child's first and most important teacher at home. How are you educating your kiddos? What things are you bringing into the conversation? Is it only the things that are familiar that you know from growing up? Or are you going to start branching out and talk about things that might be less familiar to you, but more familiar to other parts of the world? So as we continue with this conversation, going from week to week, we're going to be building in more of those nursery rhymes that come from non-Anglo-centric parts of the world. Every single culture has had a nursery rhyme of some kind. It is one of the most important pieces of oral history, and because they are easy to pass down, they're easy to remember, every single culture has one of these things. One of the most important pieces of nursery rhymes in general is the fact that you get the pacing of language. You don't necessarily focus on the words themselves, but the pieces of the words and the structure of language. And so that is why it's so important to share in every culture how these nursery rhymes can connect with kiddos and with their early learning skills. So you might have a community that speaks primarily English. You might have a community that speaks primarily Spanish or Hindi or Farsi. And it's important that you incorporate all of the languages that are critical in those communities, in addition to the languages that might be utilized outside of that. So as we are going through this, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for us to stretch and learn different languages. For me, reaching beyond Roman languages is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and it's going to be fun. So as we are getting into a lot more of these languages, we're going to be stretching our own capacities as adults as well. And that also helps to increase our brain capacity as we grow up. It's not just about those kiddos and their early learning skills, but it's about us keeping fresh as well. So I would love to hear what songs, nursery rhymes you may have grown up with, especially if you grew up in a non-Anglo-centric community. I would love to hear about those. You can share them in the comments below. Feel free to link to other songs. You can also email me directly, and I would love to incorporate them as we move forward. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Nursery Rhymes in Modern Times. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time.